Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of I Am I. My name is Joshua Ansley, and today we're getting back to the Yoga Sutras. We've taken a little break the last few weeks, a lot of stuff going on, but we're going to get back to the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, back into the yamas. I heard a really cool translation of the word yamas recently. It's not accurate, but I like the perspective on it a little bit better. The yamas are usually the should-nots, and then the niyamas are the shoulds, right? It's yamas are the restraints is the literal translation as far as I know. Which, the should not, the things you should not do, restrain yourself. And I feel like the problem is a lot of perspective on this, is that, like I talked about the 8 limbs or the yamas and the niyamas being something that you actually would do had you been aware, or if you were aware that you of your divine core. Then it's the same kind of thing that I said about the 10 commandments. Then you wouldn't steal, you wouldn't cheat, you wouldn't do these things, right? So I like that perspective better, because it's not supposed to be, otherwise it becomes suppression. It's where it's dangerous to even give these teachings, because then the whole world thinks, oh, you have to do this, you should be this way, and that's fucking bullshit. It's bullshit. I'm telling you, those are the results. It's a totally different perspective. It doesn't mean that you can't work towards them and bring them in your life. That's exactly what we need to do and understand them on deeper levels. Just bring these principles in, but it's not about getting stuck in it, right? It's a totally different way of being. So as we move a little bit forward into the yamas, we started with ahimsa, right? It's the first one we did, which is ahimsa is that non-harm, or really actually the least amount of harm. Or actually really an attitude of the least amount of harm, right? It's understanding with you, this is how we are relating to the world. It's a big fucking change there when you understand that. This is all about how you are relating to what's happening. So it's bringing love and light out of you into the world, and recognizing those things like the kleshas that stop that love and light from coming out, right? And these are just behavioral understandings that help the mind function in a better way to focus into that light and bring it out into the world. I do not believe personally, well, okay, let me get it. Let's wait. So we started with the ahimsa, that was the first one. And much like we talked about the kleshas and it's an umbrella, that ignorance, it actually causes all the rest of them, right? In this case, we want to be aware of the umbrella here with the yamas, that ahimsa, we have to keep ahimsa in mind as we work into the other ones. So the next one is going to be Satya, which is truthfulness or non-lies, right? To go from a restraint from the negative aspect. It's non-lies, which is truthfulness. Satya is literally the truth, So this can be taken a lot of different ways, and I'm gonna fuck it up and twist it upside down and totally misinterpret it like I do. Yeah, so don't forget that you're getting a lot of misinterpretation when you take my teachings. Booyah! Okay, so talking about truthfulness, there's a lot of layers to this. First of all, understanding a relative truth versus an absolute truth, and if there is some sort of absolute truth. Remember, what I tell you is truth. I speak the truth. If anyone else tells you it's the truth, they're lying, but when I say it, it's the truth. Don't forget that. So, understanding, first of all, your relative truth, and this idea of my truth versus your truth in any particular circumstance. If we're talking about a circumstance that has happened in a relationship between other people, we're understanding that there are separate truths. If there is an objective reality, I understand there may very well be. I don't know if there's an objective reality at all in this world. But in a particular circumstance, there's usually, your truth, their truth, and the truth, right? 3 versions of the story. So, working into an objective space is a really powerful thing to do, but I would say it's very important to understand your truth, because that's where the teaching is also, it's for different people need to understand it in different ways. See, some people have never recognized their truth, are not living their truth, they're living in suppression, right? So let's talk about, in a particular circumstance, if something happens in a relationship with somebody or something, right? Then we may not necessarily be honoring our emotional truth. Now, the truth is that emotions are not the truth, okay? Right? Feelings are not facts, and that is a life-changing understanding. But that does not mean that feelings are not valid and that feelings are not real. Emotions are very powerful things, right? And if they've been suppressed, then the really important practice is to understand how to step into our emotional truth. So it's not just about You know, I think it's spiritual bypass when people are just saying, to get over it or to get past it and just get over it, or you can't live in the past. Yes, you can't live in the past, but in my experience, I was being ruled by my subconscious mind and had no fucking idea. And I venture to say that as human beings, all of you are. Hear that. That's what the kleshas are about, that we have these things, we all have these things, and we all have this conditioning, right? So what is your truth, and allowing yourself to live in your truth? That does not mean it is the truth, though. So understand that. But understand how powerful it is to embrace and love your truth. And can you sit with your truth and someone else's truth? That is fucking powerful. When you don't have to tell somebody how to live their truth. Even if you think you know. Because everybody thinks that I could tell you how to operate and how to live a better life right off the bat. I could fucking tell a lot of you. I could coach a lot of you right off the bat how to get through some shit and live a better fucking life. And I will if you want me to. Just call me up, give me a ring, I'll charge you. It'll be worth it though. I've told you before, I'll tell you every goddamn day how beautiful fucking expression of divine love you are. Every single day. Call me up, I'll tell you. Just pay me. Boom. Right? Or you can just watch these videos for free. You're a beautiful expression of divine love. That is the truth. So anyway, so being willing and able to get down into your emotional truth and understand your relative truth. Understand that it's relative, but understand how powerful it is to accept and embrace your relative truth, to know where you're at now. And that's what it comes down to, is being honest and truthful with yourself, right? It's sure, if you need to go and tell people what you did and you lied. I mean, like, we're all fucking morons here. Don't lie. Don't lie. Truthfulness. I've done. Peace. Good. Namaste. No, don't fucking lie. Obviously, don't fucking lie. But you know what? It's not that black and white. Because you talk about ethical relativism. You know, if somebody walks in running from a murderer and they go hide in the closet, and then the murderer comes in and we're gonna be like, well, we live for truth. She's in the closet. Fuck you, asshole. Not happening. Right? We don't live for truth in that way. That's ridiculous. But hey, that's just my opinion. That's just my truth. Take it or leave it. So, understanding that we have to work into our truths and discern in the moment, right? Every moment doing the best we can, accepting and being honest with ourselves where we are at right now in whatever process we're going through, be it spiritual growth, be it our physical practice, emotional growth, whatever it is. That's why I say to be honest in your emotional growth, to know where you're at. You know, there are ways of being in our emotional states that you are not prepared for, that you are not ready to do, and you think you should. And that's where the shoulds come in and become dangerous, that lead to shame, thinking that you should be something else. And that's where a lot of these teachings come in, and I feel like it's, you have to be this particular way, and you're not ready for that, right? It's okay to be where you're at and to move slowly in this process. Lifetimes. The truth is, it's gonna take lifetimes, and even if that's a fucking lie, it's a good truth to live by, because it changes the way you operate in this world. If none of this fucking silly spiritual stuff is even true, it still helps you function better in this world. If past lives or not, if there's reincarnation, it doesn't matter. But if you work with this reality of it as a truth, it will help you, your mind, the psychology of it helps you focus into a different way of living, right? So ultimately getting down into your truth of being, before we get too deep to the real positive places, being true to yourself. Like, stop fucking lying to yourself. See, we are absolutely incredibly powerful emotional manipulators. We are master manipulators, and we don't even know it. So we've been manipulating from day one how to get what we want in this world. And we've been conditioned, and we think that we don't even know that we don't know that that's the only way of being. Wait, is that right? We don't even know that I don't know what the fuck I just said, but maybe it was wrong. I don't know. But is there a wrong and right? Ooh, what is true? I don't know. So, but we really don't even know that we're doing this manipulation. And if you think that you're not a manipulator, then you haven't done the work. That's what I say, but that's just my truth. That's what I've seen from my experience, strength, and hope, right? Is I could not even believe, and I've been a good man, whatever the fuck that is, my whole life, I didn't have to be told not to lie or cheat or steal. I actually had to learn how to do those things because I did it from the wrong intention. I was too afraid to actually, I'd be like, oh, Mr. Murderer, she's right in there. Fuck that. I needed to learn how to lie because there's a time and a space to do that, to preserve a deeper truth, right? It's not black and white. So understanding if you're operating in a space of manipulation just to get something for your lower self and not operating for some higher service and some higher purpose, right? Not that I'm saying you should be manipulative for a higher purpose. It's to understand and be aware of manipulations, which is basically understanding how it is that you operate to get what you want in this world. When people get angry, that's an emotional manipulation. I'm not saying you shouldn't get angry, and I'm not saying they're not even necessarily aware of that, but let's say take a business owner, your boss. They get angry because it gets shit done. When they get angry, people get afraid, and then people operate out of fear. That is fear-mongering. That is control. That is not healthy leadership. Right? That is not inspiring leadership. That is not coming from the healthy, let's say, masculine. And I'm working a lot with the masculine and feminine. But for me, as working and leading men's groups and things like that, and starting a men's group, is about healthy masculine leadership. Is not about control, right? It's not about control at all. It's about leadership. It's about guidance. It's about living by example, right? So, but people don't even recognize that when you get angry, you might be using that as an emotional manipulation because that's how you got what you want, or you're crying. And now I could say live in your emotional truth. So some of you need to step into your crying. Have never cried before, or think you're not supposed to cry and you have no emotions. If you don't step into your emotions and understand your emotions, you are missing an entire aspect of your humanity. That is the truth. Right? And so maybe that cleanse the emotions out and maybe understand they're not reality, but live in your emotional truth. Step into that space and then understand there's something beyond all of that, right? That is some powerful stuff, right? But if you're somebody that cries all the time, you might be crying because it's how you get what you want. You might be crying in your relationship to get what you want because you cried as a child and you got what you wanted because your parents responded to that. Maybe that would stop your parents from screaming, and so that was how you actually figured it out. Maybe you didn't even know it, but you've been conditioned now subconsciously that if your parents were screaming and then you really got upset and started to cry, maybe they'd be like, I'll give you something to cry about. That's a whole nother story, right? That could possibly happen. But maybe that was what softened them, so you started to learn how to cry, or subconsciously you cry because you know that it'll soften other people, and you don't even know that consciously. You have no idea how you're being ruled by your subconscious mind. That's what this work is about being truthful with yourself and getting deeper down into understanding how you do the things and why you do the things that you do. How you go about getting what it is that you want in this world. What are your emotional manipulations? That is understanding truthfulness with yourself, right? And if you want to share that with somebody else, great. That's a wonderful thing. You might need to learn to share that or not. Some of you think that like, well, I'm just truthful, I'm just honest. No, you're just an asshole, right? So you need to learn to actually move through the face, open up through your vishuddha here a little bit, or maybe you actually need to learn to balance it and close. Maybe it needs to be closed off. Maybe you're too open. You just speak your truth and you think you're honest. You're full of shit. Because if you work in your truthfulness with the ahimsa first, non-harm, you know, is it necessary? Is it true? Is it kind? All those good things, right before you say it. And those are open to interpretation too, but this is coming into a discernment. This is living consciously, people. Live consciously. It's not an easy fucking thing to do. I have people that I work that are like overwhelmed with how much they have to be aware of stuff, and I'm like, welcome to fucking life if you really want to live consciously. It won't stay that way though. That's a whole nother thing. That's another issue that they might have to work through, is being overwhelmed by it as opposed to just letting it all go and thinking they have to take on that burden, right? So, layers and layers and layers of your truth. But here's what happens when we actually work through all the layers of all the bullshit and we be true with ourselves about how we are operating. That's when we can really dig down into the truth of who we really are. When we cannot be riddled by the conditioning of society and familial conditioning and even your own conditioning, the things that you think you figured out or you don't even know that you think you figured out. Things that you figured out and are now just operating systems for you that you don't even know that you figured out, and that's what you're using, right? So your own conditioning, not just being conditioned by others, but you say, oh, this is how it works, and then you start to use that way, like I said about the crying thing, right? And when you start to pull back these layers of all these manipulations and things that you do to get what you want in this physical world, when you start to move inward down into your deeper truth beyond all of that stuff, when you start to move into your emotions and beyond your emotions, when you start to recognize that your emotions are created by the way you're operating, the thoughts that you're having in this world, that you are the master of your emotions. It may not feel that way. You may not believe that. You may not even think that that is true. And I'm not saying it is true, but I'm saying if I offer that truth to you as something to look at, and if you could actually start to see that you can be the master of your own emotions, that you can be the master of these things, the master of your truth, that you can learn to let your truth shine vibrantly, right? And learn when not to. It's a discernment. Like I said, learn when to speak it, learn when not to, when it's not necessary. Some of you might need to just fucking go out there and speak it and have never spoken it before. And some of you might need to learn, okay, well maybe, we're in Trader Joe's right now. Nobody needs to know your truth. Let's just calm down. They don't need to know. The clerk doesn't need to know all your awful dirty laundry. I'm all about airing my dirty laundry, like hang it up on the things, but like, it's like, okay, I needed to get that out. Now it's like, what truth can I hold within myself while I walk into the world and smack up against a bunch of other truths, and maybe just move with them and flow through their truths and hold space for their truth as well as mine, right? Because underneath it all, if you get down into the truth, the objective truth, and I work with this because it's a truth that helps me, even if it's just a belief system and it's not true, I don't give a fuck. Because the truth of underneath it all, me being a divine core, me being absolutely perfect outside of any action that I take, that doesn't mean I don't take action, doesn't mean I don't try to take positive action and take my personal power and put that towards supporting something higher in this life, towards service, towards something more beautiful. But it means that any action that I take does not define me. The truth is that underneath all of that stuff, underneath my personality, good, bad, all of those dualities, underneath all of that, I am an absolute expression of divine love on this planet. That I am divine at my core. That you are divine at your core. And that is the truthfulness. That is the Satya. But we need to be truthful with ourselves and with others to work all the way down into that and let that shit shine into the world, my people. Let that light out. That little light of yours, let it shine. Let it shine, my people. In Lakesha Lakin, I am you, you are me. Namaste. Peace! What? Too much?